What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you a test hand video for the Dinomorphia deck list, which I just uploaded on my channel recently. This is just going to be a test hand video. The reason why is because this is a strict control deck, and there really aren't combos I can show you other than, like, I drew a bunch of traps. Let me set 5 and pass. So I just wanted to give you guys test hands instead, just to kind of show you what it's actually like to pilot this deck in particular. So for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh! Content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. We do live duel videos, deck profiles, combo tutorials, test hands. If those are things that you enjoy, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to this channel. I'm working really hard to build my viewer base and grow the channel as a whole, and I cannot do that without your help. I'm on my way to that 1,000 subscriber benchmark, and I can't do it without you. So please, if you're watching this right now, like the video, comment down below, and subscribe, because I really enjoy doing this kind of content for you guys, and I want to continue bringing you guys really cool content. And like I said, you guys are the ones who keep me going pretty much. So thank you all who have subscribed. And like I said, we're going to dive right in to this test hand video. I'm going to leave a link down below for the profile for this deck. This is a clean 40 card list, and it is a budget alternative of the deck. So obviously, like, there are other cards that we could be running in place of some of the stuff, which are showcased in the profile. But like I said, I explicitly stated that this is a budget alternative of the deck. I believe between the main deck and the extra deck combined, the deck costs around $80, if I'm not mistaken, which, in my opinion, I think is pretty reasonable, as far as budget decks go, especially given the success you'll most likely have playing this deck. So we went ahead and did our pile shuffle. I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle a few more times for you guys, where I will go ahead and cut the deck. That way you guys know that I'm not trying to stack. And we'll pretty much pretend like we're going to go first. So we're just going to draw a 5-card hand. We got Judgment, Theresia, Trap Tantalizing Tune, Dinomorphia Brute, and another Trap Tantalizing Tune. So I guess what we can do here is we can try and fish for an Ash Blossom. See, we go Trap Tantalizing Tune, pitch Brute. And if it doesn't get ashed, well, then we're in a pretty good position because we're just going to draw 2 free cards. So we'll grab Intact, which is insane, and a Pot of Duality, which is even more insane. So from here, we'll go Pot of Duality, Excavate 3 off the top. We got Droplet, Ferret Flames, and another Duality. And we'll probably just take the Ferret Flames here. And then the other 2 cards will go ahead and get shuffled back into the deck. We'll cut again. And now this is our hand, and it's looking pretty good. So we'll go ahead and normal summon Theresia. Use Theresia's effect to set a Dinomorphia trap directly from the deck to spell Trap Zone. So looking at our hand, we want the ability to fuse on our opponent's turn, which means we're going to need to set either a copy of Domain or a copy of Frenzy. In this case, I'm going to go ahead with a Frenzy, and go ahead and set Frenzy to our spell Trap Zone. And since we already have Intact, that kind of protects us against Ash on the opponent's turn. Or, I'm sorry, on the opponent's turn. When we try to use our Frenzy, if they try to Ash us, we can just go Intact. Brand new out of Cyberstorm Access, a card that the deck desperately needed. A very good card overall. So we're going to go ahead and set that. We're going to set Judgment and set Ferret Flames. And then we'll just keep the Tantalizing Tune in our hand. Pass turn. Once the opponent, gets into their main phase and they perform their first action, we'll pretty much, we have Judgment, obviously, so, like, even if they had, like, evenly matched, we don't really care. We just Judgment it anyway. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and go Frenzy, pay half our life points. Keep in mind, we started at 8,000, so we're, at this point, going to be at 4,000. If they have Ash, or a way to negate this that is in the form of a monster, we have the new Dinomorphia Intact, which can negate the activation of said monster and destroy it, while also having our life in the process. But let's just assume that they don't have Ash. So we leave Intact, so we'll go Frenzy. Our life's at 4,000 currently. And what we'll do is we'll send one from deck. So since we have Theresia on field, we'll send Diplos from deck. The reason why I want to do that is because we want another name in rotation. That way, if Theresia does get killed, we can actually revive the Diplos back and utilize the Diplos effect. And then we'll send from our extra deck to the graveyard a Stealth Bergia. And that will allow us to summon a copy of Dinomorphia Kentragina. Hopefully you guys can see that. Trying to avoid the glare. Then Frenzy goes to grave. Now, at this point, assuming they didn't have Ash, we're at 4,000 life. What we can do here is go quick effect of Kentragina, paying half again, putting us at 2,000, banishing the Frenzy from our graveyard, and Kentragina's effect becomes Frenzy's effect, and it allows us to fuse again. Again, keep in mind, if they did have a response to that, we still have Intact, and we also have Judgment. In the event that things do get a little crazy. So we'll just dump a Theresia from the deck. And then from our extra deck, we will send a Kentragina. And that will allow us to fuse into our copy of Rexstrom, who is basically our boss monster for this theme. Now keep in mind our life points at this point, assuming we haven't used Judgment or Intact, should be at 2,000. Assuming we did start at 8,000, obviously, we'll be at 2,000 at this point, meaning that while we control the Rexstrom, any monster that our opponent controls who has 2,000 or more attack, cannot activate its effects because of Rexstrom's restriction. And that effect is non-activated. The only activated effect Rexstrom has is to pay half of our life and make the attack of all monsters the opponent controls become equal to our life. The other effect, the Floodgate-like effect is non-activated, which is pretty insane. And that's kind of our board. And like I said, we still have Intact and Judgment to back ourselves up. In addition to that, we also have Ferret Flames, which, because our life points are at 2,000, 1,000 assuming we use Rexstrom, 500 assuming we used Intact, 250 assuming we use Judgment. We activate Ferret Flames and force our opponent to shuffle monsters back into their deck, whose attack would exceed our life. So again, we can get our life points extremely low in this deck. And then again, like if they did out the Theresia, we banish any trap from our graveyard, which could be just the Brute in this case, and then we float back into Diplos. Diplos triggers to send a Dinomorphia card from deck to grave. Probably be one of our traps, something that maybe Kentragina can copy. So we can dump something like an Alert, for example. And then like I said, we'd get our draw for turn. And this is pretty much, like I said, how you play the deck. We'll draw, Soul the Supreme King, pretty nuts. So let's go ahead and run that back. We'll do another test hand. Like I said, that's why I wanted to do test hands for you guys and not a combo tutorial, because there really isn't a combo per se with this deck. It's kind of just, you open a hand and set a bunch of, trap cards and watch your opponent roll their eyes, I guess, when you win the die roll and go first. But make no mistake, even if you're going second, this deck still has some pretty interesting plays. So like I said, I just want to show you guys what it's like, give you that real life experience. And that's one of the things that I can appreciate about my channel, is that I'm always going to tell you straight up how a deck pilots, how it runs. I'm going to give you that actual experience, because if you do decide to build this deck and take it to locals, I want you guys to know more or less what to expect and the kind of hands you would be seeing playing a deck like this. Like I said, it is much slower paced. It's not a combo deck by any means. It is definitely a full-blown control deck. You're going to be playing that grind, that slow game. And you just want ways to stop your opponent from playing, pretty much. So again, we're going to do another opening hand. We have Brute, Ferret Flames, Alert, Sonic, and an Ash. Now this hand, I'm going to be totally honest, isn't great. And again, that's why we do this. I want you guys to see that there is a chance where you're going to open a hand like this and you absolutely have no plays other than the Ash. With a hand like this, if you're going first, you basically just set Ferret Flames and hope that you don't get OTK'd. If you are going to get OTK'd, once your life is low enough, you could try to Ferret Flames and force them to shuffle all their stuff back. But again, that is not guaranteed, and it is pretty risky. Pretending we were going second, let's see what we would have drawn. There's the Frenzy. So if we were going second, we probably would have already used the Ash at that point, I would assume. So if we have Frenzy, we'd basically set 5 pass with this particular setup. And then just do our hardest to resolve the Frenzy on the crackback on their turn. to establish a, get to Rexstrom pretty much, and then we have all of our other traps would be live at that point once we do establish a Dinomorphia on field, obviously. So again, that hand wasn't the greatest, obviously, and that's why I do these test hands, because I want you guys to see what it's actually like. I don't sugarcoat this. I don't only post or edit these videos to only show you the best case scenarios. This is as real as it's gonna get. If I open the nuts, then there's a high chance you're gonna in real life be able to do that. But if I also brick, I want you guys just the same. I show the good and the bad. So that's, in my opinion, what makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! It's it's sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. But at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun, that's really all that matters. So pile shuffled again. We'll cut. We'll see what kind of a hand we get this time. Ferret Flames. Frenzy. Frenzy. Ferret Flames. Domain. Now this hand is good. I mean, it could be better. We have a lot of duplicates, which kind of sucks. Well, the Ferret Flames aren't even terrible because they're not once per turn, which is correct. It's the fact that we have 2 Frenzies because they're hard once per turns, unfortunately. But we have Frenzy and Domain. So, like, we can pretty much just set everything. Pass to our opponent. We would try to go Frenzy. If they Ash us, well, we have Domain. I was reading to see if Frenzy was an activate or use. It's activate, and unfortunately Ash does not negate activation. She negates effects. So if they do Ash to Frenzy, we still have Domain. To be quite honest, I'd probably lead with Domain and fish for an Ash. If they had Ash, they Ash that, and then at least I still have Frenzy to resolve. So either way, this hand wasn't terrible. It still plays through Ash, which was one of the biggest problems this deck did have to face. And then, like I said, we have, double Ferret Flames awaiting our opponent as well. Pretty much preventing them from establishing a board of any kind. Or if they do establish a board, if we have Rexstrom on field at that point, even if they had negates, there's a high chance that those those Omni-Negate monsters like Baron de Fleur and Borlo Savage, for example, their attack is usually higher than what our life is. So even if we go Ferret Flames, they cannot activate those monster effects to negate our trap while Rexstrom's on field, because Rexstrom prevents our opponent's monsters from activating as long as their attack exceeds our life, which most of the time it will. So they can't negate the Ferret Flames. So we Ferret Flames them, they shuffle everything back, and we pretty much run off with the duel from there. So we're going to do one more test hand, because again, like I said, the deck is pretty linear. There's not too much deviation from what you're normally doing. I would ideally like to see a hand that does have Soul the Supreme King, so I can show that card off. Let's see if we get it here. That's why I'm choosing not to pile shuffle. I'm just doing the more traditional shuffle. And we'll see what we can get. So we have Ash, Trap Tracks, Theresia, Duality, Theresia. This hand isn't actually too bad. We'll probably lead off with the Duality. Go ahead and excavate 3. We'll take probably the Domain here. And then we'll shuffle the Theresia and the Droplet back. I guess you could have also taken Droplet as well. It really depends on what you value in that specific scenario. I normal the Theresia, activate Theresia effect to go ahead and set a Dino Trap from our deck. Since we have Domain, I'd probably set Intact, which would allow us to play through cards like Ash. So I'd set Intact, set Domain, set Trap Tracks, and pass with that. We still have an Ash in our hand. And then, like I said, we have access to our Dinomorphia fusions through the Frenzy, through the Domain, which can get us, to Ketragina and Rexstrom, respectively. And then we do have Trap Tracks, which is nice because we can go Trap Tracks, pop the Theresia or the Ketragina, whatever what we want. We can even chain this in response to like the opponent threatening one of our cards. Which I think is cool. Let's say they go like, bad example, but let's say they go like Man-Eater Bug, for example, and our card is going to get popped anyway or something. We could chain Trap Tracks, target the target that they targeted. Gee, like that's not convoluted. And then pop our monster preemptively, and then we get a plus off of it rather than just having them out our monster. We can kind of use Trap Tracks a little more proactively than And in that case, we could actually set a copy of Soul the Supreme King since it is a normal trap. Pop our monster would float, and then now that gives us access into Soul. Soul allows us to special a Zark, ignoring conditions, but negate its effects. So we get a free Supreme King Zark to our field to the end of the next turn. It's just a 4K vanilla at this point, which again, like, who's complaining? It's just either going to help us push for game. But if the opponent does activate a spell, while we control the Zark and the Soul, the Supreme Kings in our graveyard, we could banish the Soul from grave, banish the Zark we control, and we get to special summon a Crystal Clearwing Synchro for free, which is basically just a 3K, and this does not leave the field. It's not until like the end of the next turn. It's permanent. The opponent will have to out this somehow. It's 3K. It's a spell trap negate. Also, if the opponent activates a monster effect, you can quick effect chain, make this card become unaffected by monsters for the turn, and it gains attack equal to the attack of the monster that activated, which is just ridiculous. This card is very difficult to remove, and just another problem in addition to all the problems you're already throwing at your opponent. So that's going to round out the test hand video, guys, for Dinomorphia. Again, this is a more budget version of the deck. So be mindful of that when you're looking at some of the card choices. But despite it still being budget, I think the deck's a lot of fun to play. And if you're getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! And you want like a simple deck to learn and pick up, that way you can learn the basics of Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself and not have to worry about like you have this really complicated deck. Like trying to give a newer player Super Heavy Samurai, for example. Like they're just not going to get it. They're not going to have, it's like trying to get a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Player to telling them how Infernoble works. It's just not going to make sense. So if you have somebody who's interested in playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And they like dinosaurs or trap decks, for example, this is a very good beginner deck that you can give to somebody, and they're going to have a really good time with it. It's going to show them the game's basics. They're going to learn about how chain links work, and they'll be able to summon really big boss monsters that close out the duel really, really fast. So with that being said, guys, that's it for my combo tutorial. My test hand video. Like this video, subscribe. Again, I'm working my way to 1,000 subs. It would mean the world to me if we get there. And yeah, this is Nick signing out. Stay tuned for more really awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Content coming your way on the channel within the next week or so. I'm going to be having more deck profiles, more live duel videos and whatnot, so you guys don't want to miss out on that stuff. So this is Nick signing out.